friends, and welcome to Surface Lap.
Card Sharks.
What?
Jin's already off script.
That's the thing. We don't have a script. It's bullshit. Welcome to Card Sharks,
Thank you.
where we talk about cards.
Yes, we are talking about the Final Fantasy card game.
Trading card game.
Thank you. And
Yes.
that was Ned just now.
What the fuck was that?
Ned
a
is
ghost.
our special guest. Ned, would you please introduce yourself?
Certainly. I'm Ned. I work on the ForceUnlimited.com, which is a podcast about the upcoming Star Wars Unlimited card game. I have played card games for many years. I am a card game aficionado, I suppose one could say. And I do a lot of statistics, both for fun and for my job.
Statistics for fun, guys.
Listen, I simulated an Arkham Horror draw bag before we started playing Arkham Horror, so I'd have a good feeling
Wow.
of exactly what the odds were.
Yeah,
for
that's
a particular
some
draw.
next
It's
level
not
anxiety
hard.
mitigation.
I have a lot of anxiety. Yeah.
So we brought in some heavy hitters here to talk about this very serious trading card game.
Indeed.
A weighty friend.
So, Ned, you had got me for my B-Day a starter pack for the Final Fantasy trading card game.
That is correct.
And this was a special Final Fantasy 14, like, two-player starter.
Yes.
So that is two pre-made decks of
Yes.
50 cards each.
Yep.
One deck is themed around the Scions and Friends. One deck is the Imperials and random Shadowbringers characters and a bunch of bards for some reason.
Bards
And a bunch
are-
of bards. Yeah.
yeah.
My
Bard-
deck did
bards
not
are
have bards.
evil.
They are. They fucked some shit up.
Yeah. Oh, so you
For
got
a
a chance
lot.
to play.
Yeah, I played a couple of times.
Okay.
So like 3 times.
3 times?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jen and I did a few games as well. Jen almost got me in the last game,
Almost.
though she didn't know it.
Yeah. I'm just going through the motions. I don't play card games, guys. Never have. So it's not in my DNA. So literally everything I was doing, I'm like, okay, so now what do I do? And somehow I was keeping up with the Joneses. I don't know. It was magic.
Were you playing the Imperial deck or the Xark deck and friends?
Lexark deck and friends.
I will say that the starter deck, the two decks are not equally complex. The Imperial deck definitely felt like it had a lot more to keep. Sorry, I feel like I'm jumping ahead in the script.
No, that's
here.
great.
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
let's call that person the Exarch going forward. And
Exarch,
number
okay.
2,
Here we go. Yeah, there's some spoilers in this game.
Okay.
spoiler warning. This game, as mentioned, contains characters from the Shadowbringers expansion. There are no story spoilers. We will reference the names of those cards. In my opinion, the card names are not spoilers. Ones that are kind of borderline, we will shorten to be less so.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, out of context, it should be fine.
Yeah, there'll be nothing about the story revealed during this card talk.
I guess I'm kind of confused because I feel like if you're at the level where you're listening to a podcast about the lore of Final Fantasy XIV, that you should have played the game.
Yeah, same. We were talking about it yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, but everybody here is a huge nerd. Of course they've played it all. But like, no, we've got people who are still, they're just like spending the time, making their
Okay,
way, doing all
okay.
the side shit, and so they're still maybe in like the second expansion.
This is 10 years of content. It does not go down quickly.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That said, I have watched all of Joe Cat's crap guide to Final Fantasy, so I feel like I'm an expert at Final Fantasy at this point.
Yes.
We'll test you
Yes.
at the end. Okay, so first off, what is this game?
Final Fantasy trading card game, or FFTCG, not to be confused with FFTCG, which would be Final Fantasy Tactics Computer Graphics, I imagine.
Good lord.
Yeah,
Here
I'll
we go.
just riffing here.
Thank you for being prepared.
Yeah, it's a card game for 2 players. It is a trading card game in the sense that the cards come in randomized packs, and these packs contain some distribution of cards. Some are rarer than others. You build your deck by putting together cards of certain types, and then you battle one another in an attempt to murder the other player, because that's what you do in card games.
Not to call you out, Ned, but how much did the 2-player starter cost? Not for my reference, but for everyone's reference.
Are we talking MSRP or how much it personally cost me as a human being?
Let's say MSRP.
MSRP.
I think it was $60 MSRP.
One that's very expensive.
Yes.
Surprisingly so for a 2-player
Yeah.
starter.
I mean, there's some
not-
fancy cards in there.
So
Holographics.
You are outing yourself here as a casual in the realm of
that is why you're here.
No.
That is a given. That's why we had to bring in the expert.
$50 for a 2-player battle box is pretty reasonable as far as these things go.
Okay.
Because I was going to say, after we played this a few times, I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. I don't care about going crazy on this thing. I would have fun doing like a limited Final Fantasy XIV cards only set.
Totally.
So I went looking at the prices, and it would cost me some hundreds of dollars to round out a 14 alone collection.
Yes.
That's how they get you.
So that was TCG Player. To plug TCG Player slightly, a good source for all your trading card needs. It's a little bit difficult to navigate the website, but I guess they get a free plug for no reason. They're not paying me. I pay them, in fact. I'm going to be real with you. Like, again, as a hardened card game autist, $100 for a whole set is very reasonable. Like, Final Fantasy Tactics, as far as like collectible card games go, is very reasonably priced.
Oh, what I meant is sums of hundreds, not 800.
Okay, no. I'm picking up what you're putting
All right,
down.
just clarifying.
I'm coming out of a universe where people are paying. I mean, not to throw large sums of money around, but people will pay like $1,000 for a modern deck. So that is one deck of cards in modern Magic is $1,000.
That seems like a racket, and they got certain individuals hooked.
Listen, I quit Magic after my son turned 2, and so I'm clean one day at a time.
Yeah, how many years sober? Okay.
So this game, the starter comes with a full guide, which was largely sufficient, though there was some Googling of rules about, okay, so how does this work exactly here?
Yeah.
Overall, though, it has pretty good instructions for playing the game itself.
I would agree with that. Whenever you have a card game, there are always edge cases because card games are essentially exceptions games. But I would say that for a starter pair of decks, the level of complexity was much higher than I'm expecting. If you compare it to a lot of other games, starter decks, most of the time they try and show off like relatively simple where they want to give you a flavor of different things. And this deck had there's a lot of moving parts to most of the decks, more so than I was expecting for like an introductory experience.
There's a lot of reading on my
There's
part.
a lot of reading.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It was not brain dead, whatever. There were decisions being made on most turns by me when playing this.
Correct.
Yes.
Me too.
Decisions.
Decisions.
Yeah, decisions were made, for good or bad. It's so, when you guys talk about like, oh, the rules seem really well laid out, I'm like, I disagree.
Totally.
But
yes.
Again, it's not something that I have any experience with. So I'm looking at this, and it's like oversimplified, and maybe that's me as well because I tend to like overthink, and it's not overthinking along with me. So I feel like there's a lot of room for interpretation. Like I could, if I wanted to argue a point, like I can do this, and somebody was like, I don't think you can do that. I'm like, oh well, I think I can, and I could argue the point because it's not really.
No, it's not well spelled out. Like I would agree that the rules are relatively straightforward, but I would disagree that they're well laid out on the introductory sheet. I feel that the introductory sheet, if you were to try and read it and get a sense of how the card game plays, and you were coming into it with limited card game experience, and I think empirically we have validated that is
Indeed,
the case.
it's oversimplified.
It is not. It is both over and undersimplified.
Yeah, it expects you to kind of fill in the blanks.
Yes.
Expecting you to have the experience there to be like, to read between the lines.
Right, and to understand things like timing windows, and like they explain the stack, but they do a really bad job of explaining the stack. Also, it uses the stack. So,
what's the stack?
I don't know.
Oh boy. Okay. All right.
Yay!
So, how hardcore do I need to dive into like the intricacies of card game rules?
Go hard.
Explain it
Go
to
hard.
your child.
So, when a mommy card and a daddy card love each other, no. So, a lot of card games, they tend to branch when you have card games. They tend to branch at 2 points, and one point is where you have what I call stack games, and another sort of branch of the tree is games that are non-stack. So examples of stack games are things like Magic, or what are I guess Hearthstone for in the digital space, Eternal. I'm just dropping names of card games that you guys have not played, so I'm not sure how enlightening this is.
I've played maybe 2 Magics in my lifetime.
Okay.
2 Magics.
2 Magics. Okay.
Yeah. There's like Slay the Spire.
Slay the Spire.
That is a deck builder.
That is a deck.
Okay. See.
Yeah.
Okay. I am the voice of the people right now.
All right.
Thank you, Jen.
Yes, thank you.
Well, some of the people.
So what I mean by the stack is when you allow for responding to other players' effects, some card games don't allow you to do that, where you do one thing and then your opponent has a chance to do a thing and then you have a chance to do a thing. And then other card games, you have a chance, or effects have the ability to happen before, like in response to something happening. So an example of this would be when a card enters the battlefield in Magic, an effect goes on the stack, which means that the card is causing something to happen, and then you can respond to either the card or the thing that is being caused to happen. And essentially you get this stack of effects that piles up, and then you resolve it first in, last out. So to use a Magic example, because I feel like that's relatively straightforward,
Sure.
is if I'm attacking with a small creature and then you lightning bolt the creature, I can respond to your lightning bolt with a giant growth, which makes my creature bigger, and that will cause the giant growth will happen first and save my creature. Then the lightning bolt will happen. My creature doesn't die because it's big enough to survive the lightning bolt, and then the stack resolves. In other card games,
I understand now, because this game you can respond, for instance, to attacks with summons.
Yes.
So the summon, like, they might deal damage immediately.
Yes.
And that resolves before the attacker does.
Right. So other games, you don't have that, where when somebody causes something to occur, you resolve that completely before you move on to the ability to do other stuff.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it does a very bad job of explaining the stack.
So
Sure
with
did.
my 2-game experience of Magic, this game felt to me very similar, but not quite like Magic.
I think that
The Gathering.
Magic the Gathering, a deck master game, by Richard Garfield, PhD. Anyway, sorry. This is in a genre of card games that I'm going to call dude bashers, where you have dudes and you attempt to bash them into your opponent. There's a wide variety of card games that are dude bashers. There are only a couple of card games that I have played that are not dude bashers. Shout outs to Netrunner, RIP. It's a dude basher in the sense that you are playing resources, you're playing units, you're trying to use your units to attack your opponent takes damage, and they die. And then you win the game.
That's how it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that vividly.
Yeah.
Yeah. People died.
So getting into the nitty-gritty of this game,
Yes.
most cards in this game are some form of character.
Yes.
Or I think like all cards that we saw are characters.
I think that there are a small number of cards that are non-characters depending on the definition that you use of characters. For example, I would say a flan is not a character.
Disagree.
Disagree?
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's have a conversation.
Is a mindless
the-
ooze a
Yeah,
character?
yeah. But does it have sentience? Are flan people?
Well, by that I meant the cards are all like creatures. They're not like
They represent
abstract lightning bolt or
Right,
whatever.
right.
They
yeah.
represent game effects. So that said, a subclass of these characters, summons, act functionally similar to a lightning bolt, where you are like invoking Rama or evoking Ifrit or I presume Carbuncle, I guess.
Probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not
I'm
in
sure
this
there's
set.
somewhere.
Yeah, not in this set,
not
yeah.
in this set. But you are invoking their ability, they do a thing, and then they go away.
Yeah. But these are all being shown through our fan favorite characters.
Yes.
Like I'm not casting Lightning Bolt. I am summoning Ramu, who casts Lightning Bolt. I think it's very much trying to connect you to the IP specifically there.
Yes, no, I would agree with that.
So there are 4 card types, all of which contain characters.
Yes.
There are forwards, which are the, quote, dudes that bash.
Yes, those are the bashy dudes.
There are backups, which I think are like lands in Magic.
They are the land equivalents in Magic. They are your resource generators, although they tend to be... They are resource generators, but in Magic, the vast majority of lands are pure resource generators, whereas the majority of backups have some kind of an ability when they come into play. So they're more complex than a comparable land would be in Magic.
And then there are the monsters. There was only one monster in our decks, which was the aforementioned Flan. That guy was pretty basic. I assume others do interesting things.
Yeah, no, the Flan was basically just like it got other cards out of your deck.
Yeah, they multiplied.
Yep.
And then there are the summons, which can be used as like a forward or whatever sometimes, or as like an interrupt in the quote stack.
Yes. That is correct.
Killing it. Learning
Damn.
stuff right now.
Yeah.
Things that I think that are interesting to note is that it uses I'm going to huge slam on card games from Japan out of nowhere, but it uses the Japan style of card games where units have like 5,000 power instead of like 5. This is something 5,000.
So,
yeah.
I assume that was because it was Final Fantasy and they wanted
Could be.
big numbies.
Yeah. Who
So-
doesn't want big numbies?
Other card games that I know that are primarily targeted at Japan are Kaijudo and Duel Masters, both of which have thousands. And then my understanding of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is it also uses thousands. So I think of that as a like primary East Asia market.
All right.
TCG
Again,
feature.
justifying your presence. Thank
Bam.
you. Yeah. So the lowest number in this game is 1,000.
Yes, that is correct. The lowest number referring to a unit's power is
Yes.
1,000. Yes. There are smaller numbers than that.
So talking about overall flow of game here,
Yes.
pretty much the goal of the game is to destroy your opponent,
Yes.
being the other player. Their cards they have are only tools towards that goal.
Yes.
There's no victory gained in like killing an individual card. You want to damage the player directly to achieve the win condition.
Yes, if your goal, if we are trying to summarize it, you want to damage your opponent, and when your opponent has taken enough damage, they lose.
Which is 7.
Yes. And this is actually something that I think is really interesting, is that that number is 7 and not 7,000. And the reason for that is it doesn't matter how large of a unit connects with your opponent. Any unit that connects with your opponent does 1 point of damage, regardless of how big it is. In a lot of other games, that's not the case.
The damage you take is tracked by cards you'll flip from your deck and then put aside.
Yes.
That brings us to a mechanic which you thought was interesting, Ned, which was the EX burst.
It is something that's really interesting given the way that the game flow happens, is when you deal damage to your opponent and they flip over the top card of their deck, if that card has an ability called EX burst, then the EX burst ability will trigger. EX burst also, that doesn't seem like a really intuitive name for that ability, but that's neither here nor there.
No.
And so sometimes these abilities are really good, and sometimes these abilities are fine. But it's fine. It's fine. It does a thing.
In my last game with Jen, where she
I
had
was
me on the
gonna
ropes,
say,
Yeah.
I flipped over a, I think it was a summon, maybe Ifrit,
Yeah.
and it nuked one of Jen's forwards that was, I was like at 5 out of 7 damage.
Yeah.
That thing could have ended the game for me if she had a couple turns uninterrupted. So like that was a game changer right then.
Oh yeah.
It's a randomization.
I was so mad.
Yeah.
You
We-
can't
we,
count on
like-
it, of course.
Yeah, I mean the rarity of flipping over a damage card and getting an EX burst that actually does something useful.
Well, I will
That
tell you
it
though.
changed the course of the game.
Yeah.
There are other cards that care about the damage the opponent has too.
Yes.
Like, for instance, the Exarch card, they have an ability that will power up at 5 damage if the player has 5 damage.
Yeah.
So I actually skipped damaging you a couple times, Jen, because I did
You
not
didn't want me to get 5
Exactly.
and then
yes.
lock that ability.
I knew that card would give me a rough time, so I had to take care of them before I damaged.
Oh, what an interesting passive defense that was. I
Yeah.
had no idea.
You were killing it in that game.
I had no idea. This is
No,
great.
I mean, like those kinds of desperation effects I think are really interesting. And given that outside the scope of specifically this battle box, you get to control the cards that go into your deck, you can try and stack EX bursts, and you can value cards for their EX bursts to try and make sure that you are a little bit pricklier to attack. But yeah, I think that it's an interesting mechanic. It definitely adds some tension, given that the combat is deterministic in the sense that when you attack, your opponent has the choice to intercept or not. And then if they do not intercept, you just take damage. Having that little bit of tension helps to make attacks more meaningful, which I think is an interesting feature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the only randomization is the deck shuffling.
Yes.
Once the cards are out, they are always fixed values,
Yep.
fixed effects, period.
Yep. And that's very common for paper TCGs. You don't in digital
Trading card games.
Thank you. Yes, in digital trading card games, you frequently see a lot of randomization because that's something that computers do really well, and you occasionally see it in Magic, which has been around for. Magic: The Gathering, a Deckmaster game by Richard Garfield, PhD.
Oh my god.
Has a number of I would call them semi-random effects where you're like rolling dice or you're shuffling cards between players, but those generally people don't see outside of very specific contexts.
So onto the game itself.
Yes.
You'll start off by drawing 5 cards, and then every turn you draw 2 cards.
Which I think is actually a really refreshing change. So in Magic and in a number of games descended from Magic, you draw 1 card a turn, and that can frequently cause situations where you have, I'm going to use a fancy bit of terminology, no outs. There is no single card that you can draw that will bail you out of a situation. But by drawing 2 a turn, it increases the scope of things that you could possibly draw to, and it also makes card draw less valuable. Where in 1 card draw a turn games, card draw and things that get you, I'm going to use the term card advantage, which is having more cards in your hand, are hugely powerful because your intake of cards is very limited. Whereas in Final Fantasy and other games where you use the draw 2 mechanic, shout outs to Star Wars Unlimited, you are drawing multiple cards a turn, and so your ability to just staple card draw onto effects or have like bad trades kind of get washed out in the overall flow of the card game is a lot better.
I found it to be kind of essential because of the way that you pay for cards.
Yes.
Because to put a card on the table, you either pitch cards in hand for 2 resource points, which are represented by elemental crystals.
Yes.
So you got your classic 6 elements: fire, water, earth, ice,
Lightning.
wind, lightning.
Yeah. Are those the classic 6?
No.
All I know is that I couldn't tell you when that became a thing in Final Fantasy, but this TCG comes from before 14 came out.
Yes.
So at some point that became like the Final Fantasy elemental set.
You also forgot to mention 2 elements. There's light
and dark. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, actually.
Oh my god.
So I know nothing, but that feels to me like a thing that might have been added in a later version, because in Final Fantasy 14, light and dark are very important kind of pseudo elements. I'm not going to get into that whole thing. We talked about that elsewhere in the podcast, but that's the big thing in this game. That has not always been a big thing in the Final Fantasy. Like they had like lightning and wind well before light and dark appeared as a thing.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that got patched in some, like, we're now adding this game to the series. Now we are adding in light elements.
I mean, the light and the dark element definitely feel a little bit more ancillary than the other elements. Cards are elementally typed, and that elemental typing helps to define your deck. Is typically when you're building a deck, you'll want to only include a small number of elements because you need to have your resources that you generate come from elemental crystals that match the card that you're playing.
Right. So to play an earth card, you must have at least 1 earth crystal.
Yes.
But you can have, like, if it costs 4, you can have 1 earth and 3 fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just got to get 1 toe in the door.
Yes. Which is, I think, a perfectly fine resource system. One thing that wasn't mentioned that I think is important is one of the other unit types that we didn't talk a lot about, which is backups, which are your land equivalents, is that these are units. They have a cost, unlike lands and Magic, and when you play them on subsequent turns, you can use them to generate 1 crystal point, 1 resource of the elemental type that they match. And one of the things that's interesting about this resource system is in a lot of card games, there's a build-up phase. And what I mean by a build-up phase is that on the early turns of the game, there's relatively cheap units that you can get out. And then as the game goes on, you have more and more access to units. In this game, it's not as much. You can play on the very first turn a very expensive unit, like an 8-cost unit, if you're willing to throw away a lot of your hand. And backups are frequently not necessarily a good value proposition on the turn that you play them. In fact, they're a strictly negative value proposition on the turn that you play them.
Right, they do nothing when they come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless they have an effect, which, everything has exceptions, but yeah. But yeah, so when you're playing backups, you're saying that you're essentially losing cards now to try and save cards that you would have to pitch in the future. They also are really helpful when you're paying for cards that have odd costs. And I think that if you are really into the game, trying to make sure that your odd cost cards are matched well by your backups, because when you pitch a card for resources, those resources get spent completely on the card. So you have to pitch 2 cards to play a 3 resource unit and as well as a 4 resource unit. But with a backup, a 3-resource unit is 1 pitch and a backup, as opposed to a 4-resource unit being either 2 backups or 2 pitches.
Right. And to clarify, after the turn they come out, you can tap, or as this game calls them, dual backup units, because tap has been copyrighted.
Yes, thank you very much. By Richard Garfield, PhD.
Yes. So you dual them for their resource, but also there are other effects. Like a common one is that you can spend an element and then dual the backup to maybe take one of your opponent's forwards out of a commission for a round, or maybe do some direct damage to the opponent's forwards.
And I think that that's an interesting feature of backups is, like we said before, they're more complex than lands. That said, because you don't have that arc of a resource generation, where on the early turns of the game, you're not always going to be playing cheap units, and on the later turns of the game, you're not always going to be leaning towards playing more expensive units, the games can feel a lot swingier. And by that, I mean that if you draw a powerful unit on the early turns of the game, you can just play it, and your opponent has to deal with it.
Philia.
Correct.
Yeah.
But for that, though, you're going to have to essentially kind of break your economy, because you will pitch 3-4 cards.
Yeah, hella expensive.
So that means that in the future, you will not have much of an engine to keep playing cards later on. So it's still a calculated risk.
Yes, absolutely. It's not just mindless, like, oh, I drew my powerful dude and I'll throw them out on the first turn.
Exactly.
And then there are some units that have abilities. I'm using units to refer to both forwards and backups, where they either become cheaper just by spotting, that is, if you have other backups in play, or they require some other condition to be put into play. And these units therefore become much more difficult to play on the early turns of the game. And on the later turns of the game, they become much cheaper.
Right. The main one in this set is the Titania card, who you must have pitched, I think, 3 cards prior, 1 monster, 1 forward, 1 backup, if I'm recalling correctly.
I'm looking at the card right now.
She is a very cheap, very powerful card, but she cannot come out until after some turns have passed.
Yes. Yeah, you can only play cast Titania if you have a forward, backup, monster, and summon in your break zone.
Oh, wow. So, 4 requirements.
Yeah, 4 requirements.
Yep.
But they are a very powerful unit. One of the things that I think is interesting about pitching to play for things is that your break zone, which is the game's name for the discard pile, you have a lot of control over what goes into your break zone. Some other card games, you need to have specific discard enablers in order to get things into your break zone. And so there's a lot of cards that manipulate the break zone or look at the break zone, and you aren't as restricted about the composition of your deck. You don't need to have as many enablers, because with Titania, in some other card games, getting all 4 of those types into the graveyard, the break zone, might be really difficult, but because of the pitch mechanic, you are guaranteed, as long as you see the cards in your hand, you can get them into your break zone.
Interesting.
So once you play the cards, there are 2 so-called main phases in this game. These are essentially phases during the player's turn in which they will pay and play for a card.
Yes.
Rather, pay for and play cards.
Yes.
Between main phase 1 and 2, there is an attack phase.
Yes.
This is the time when the dudes bash.
Yes.
So your forwards will be able to attack the opponent at this time.
Yep.
All you do when you attack is you say, this card is attacking.
Yeah.
Like, Gaius is going to attack. The opponent has all the control as to how that articulates.
Yes.
They will choose which card will block it, if anyone, or they will choose if they want to take damage themselves. Maybe they want to take damage versus like losing a weaker card to the block.
I'm in general on record as being a fan of the defending player chooses defenders games. You can make really good games without that, but it does give the defending player a little bit more control. Differences from Magic, for people who are familiar with Magic, is that there's no concept of multi-blocking, where you can't have multiple of your forwards defend against a single attacking forward, but you can have what's called a party attack, where you can have multiple attackers essentially Voltron together into a single giant robot.
If they have the same element.
Yes.
Right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so
it's
like,
an easy mechanic to forget.
2 lightning guys can team up and then be one
Giant
combined force.
Yes.
However, when blocking, so when you attack, each character does damage to the other character simultaneously.
Yes.
So if you attack with a 10,000 power character and defend with a 10,000 power character, they both deal 10,000 to each other at the same exact time.
Yes.
The character's power is both their damage and their health.
Yes.
So they will kill one another at the same time. Likewise, if an 8,000 character attacks a 10,000 character, the 10,000 character will always win and kill the 8,000 character. They will have 2,000 health, but health is not tracked between phases. Once the turn ends, they are reset back to full.
Yeah, it is tracked between phases, but not between turns.
My bad.
Sorry. No, because it matters for some
You're correct.
Effects, because you can have like small amounts of direct damage, and that's a feature of the Imperial deck. Is there's a substantial number of cards that do small amounts of direct damage, which generally aren't useful, but they help to make your opponent blocking with larger characters less attractive, because you can deal some direct damage after the fact and get them.
And in general, after you attack, the character is turned sideways.
Dulled.
You will tap the side of the card so that they are rotated 90 degrees to the side.
Yes, perpendicular to the normal plane of play.
And they will not be able to be used for either attack or defense until your next turn. So cards you attack with cannot be defended with unless they have the special ability called Brave.
Brave is the equivalent of Vigilance in Magic and does not tap to attack. In older versions of Magic, it means that the character can attack without dulling, which makes them, when you have a large character that is Brave, they become very, very difficult to deal with because they can attack successfully, and because the damage is wiped away on them at the end of your turn, when it moves to your opponent's turn, they're hale and hearty.
They're
and
good to
able.
go.
Yep.
And that's pretty much the game. You know, it's mostly about the card abilities, but essentially play card, work card, play card.
Nice.
So you play the cards and then you attack, and then the first person who takes 7 damage is out of the game. However, there's also like a second side condition, which I actually got very close to on our...
Oh, you almost milled out?
Yeah, I had maybe 10 cards left in my deck.
8.
Excuse me.
No, nobody's who is counting?
Oh my god,
so if you run out of cards in your draw pile, you also lose too.
Yes.
So that's kind of like a timer on the game overall, and enrage, as we'd call it in the business.
Their business.
I mean, it's a common feature of card games. I think that having a timer helps because one of the disadvantage to go back to defender chooses defense games. There's a tendency for there to be a situation called a board stall where neither player has good attacks. Where if I'm attacking, you have defense that is capable of dealing with my attacker and vice versa. And so those games, there's not a lot of what I would call evasive abilities, where evasive abilities are ways that your attackers can get past and deal damage to the opponent without being intercepted. And so because of that, the board stall condition is real, and so making sure that the game has a timer on it so that somebody needs to make the first move is really important. It also would break the damage model because you would have no cards in deck, and what do you flip for your damage?
Right. So unless there are more comments about the game's mechanics overall, let's talk about some individual... Oh, there are more.
I do have a couple of tiny little notes. So one of the things that I noticed when I was looking through the cards is that the idea of color identity. And what I mean by that is different characters having elements. Those elements in a lot of games are heavily tied into that character's personality or like features of the card. I didn't feel that as much. I mean, not to jump the gun a little bit, but I don't feel like bards are particularly icy. I mean, maybe they are.
I think that they made themselves a corner here because they have committed to every card being a person or some creature.
Yes.
So there's got to be some just like resource generators in the game. And so it's got to be something.
No, I hear you about that. But the color identity to character tie felt a little bit looser.
No, I
in
agree.
This game
I'm just saying that they kind of made themselves
Yeah.
a little hole there because they had to make like a workhorse card of every element.
Yes.
Even though like what is like a workforce lightning exactly?
But mechanically the color pie is very well divided. And by that I mean that by looking at a card's effect, you don't see a lot of, for example, direct damage outside of fire and lightning, and then the lightning direct damage tends to be smaller than the fire direct damage. Ice and water tend to have a lot of dulling. Earth tends to have a lot of sort of pump effects that make your characters larger. I don't think these decks have any wind, so I couldn't say.
No wind, no water.
No wind, no water. Okay.
So according to the Final Fantasy Trading Card Game Starter Guide,
Ooh.
These are the elemental associations. Fire does damage to forwards and has strong spells, but low defense. Mm-hmm. Ice is a control element. It will dull your opponent's characters so they can do less on their turn.
Oh, I got by that.
Yeah.
Ice seemed pretty powerful.
Wind is high speed and low power. So you can play a lot of wind cards, but they will be less powerful than your average card.
Okay.
Earth has high defense, according to the guide, and it excels in soaking damage and getting stronger over time.
That tracks.
Lightning, it is good at one-hit moves. It's the shock effect. So it's fast and hard-hitting. And then water is used for card draw, apparently. Though, again, there are no water cards in these sets here.
Yeah.
So it is how you draw cards, and it can return your opponent's characters to their hand, is what it says.
Okay, bounce. Yeah, we didn't see any bounce.
Yeah, it seems like a more complicated. It's like the most text of all the elements on water, so maybe keeping it somewhat simple for the beginners.
Yeah, other like card game notes, I didn't see any counter spells. Counter spells are things that stop your opponent's effects from happening. There are some effects that will stop your opponent's triggered abilities from happening, but nothing that I saw that would prevent them from playing a forward, nothing that I saw that would prevent them from playing a backup or a summon. There were things that prevented summons or backups or forward abilities from targeting particular cards.
Right, yeah.
So you don't see like counterspell wars that you see in some other card games where, you know, you go to do something and the other person says no, and then you say no to their no, and then they say no to your no. Yeah.
I feel like that's such a tempting design space. There's got to be a card in this giant game.
I'm sure that it is,
that does
but
that.
Not in this.
Not in this one, though. Not in the starter set.
Yeah. And there were also not any direct just kill a guy cards that I saw. There are damage cards, but no just straight up kill a guy.
Kind of. The Exarch, when the controlling player is at 5 or more damage, they can take out a character with
they did have a kill a guy. Okay.
less than the Exarch's power.
Okay.
So it still has like a cap on it.
Yeah.
But yes, it does take a guy off without any contest.
Right. And I think that that's a good note, is that a common question about these kinds of dude basher games, and I know that I'm detracting from our ability to talk about the specific cards, which are what people are here for, but because I'm an amateur game designer and because I have strong feelings about card games, how durable cards are is a real differentiator. Is that in Magic, your creatures are very disposable. Very few things live very many turns because there are so many lethal kill spells that for most of the game, if you play a card, if you play a creature and it's worth killing, it will get killed. Whereas in some other games, stronger units are a lot more defensive. There's a lot fewer kill effects, or those kill effects tend to be higher costed, such that your cards are more durable. And I think that given that this is a Final Fantasy card game and people care about the characters in Final Fantasy, I've been told, I don't know.
Yeah.
That not having just straight up kill whatever you want effects, but having mostly damage and like size-based removal effects makes a lot of sense.
All right. So speaking of caring about characters, let's talk about some cards of note.
Oh boy.
So do you want to start with the Scions deck or with the miscellaneous enemies and their friends deck?
Miscellaneous enemies and their friends deck, if that's not too much trouble. So I don't have a lot of knowledge, but this Emmett Selch guy,
Jen and I will be the experts of the characters.
He seemed
Stay in your lane, Ned.
Okay. He seemed like a real POS. Like he has a lot of sneaky abilities. Not that version, this version. I'm handing a different card over.
Yeah, so there are 2 of these characters in the deck here. One of them seems kind of boring. Like you have to pay 4 resources to put an ice backup on the field. The ice backups in this deck are like 2-cost bards.
Yep.
There's nothing I want to summon that costs 4. I'll give a pass to that version of Emmett. The second guy, though, so when he is targeted by your opponent's summons or abilities, he is removed from the game temporarily. So essentially, he can be removed from the field, be effectively immune to those attacks until the controlling player puts him back on after the attack resolves. It's kind of like the arc villain type trope in a way where you can't attack the arc villain because you got to deal with the minions first. He will only be lost if you want him to be lost. I don't know if that's really a huge lore tie-in, frankly, in my opinion. I can see it if I stretch a little bit.
No, it seems more of just like a general villain trope, like you said, and not necessarily Emmett specific. Though, I mean, we can't really say too much, I guess.
All right, that's too spoilery.
I know!
Okay.
Jen, you could say that he has some longevity to him, I guess, without that.
There you go.
And not drop the M word.
Okay. What was the M word?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Exactly. He's got some staying power. Let's just say.
So, I mean, I'm sure there's ways to take him off the board that the controlling player cannot avoid, but he will lose in his terms, I guess, is what I would say from the card design. So that's something.
And
anyway.
Again, I'm not hyper familiar with the lore, but my feeling is that that's a really fun ability to have on an enemy.
Yes, I wish the card were better, frankly, because the card itself is not great.
No.
It's like a 7,000 power, which I know it's a big number, but it's actually kind of mid-tier.
It's not that
extremely
great.
mid, yeah. No, he felt like an obnoxious second, like Team Rocket's blasting off again. No, he's 9,000. He's the good one is 9,000.
Oh, excuse me, the
it's
bad
still
Emmett.
Mid.
Yes.
Yeah. The 4-cost Emmett is 9,000.
That's solid.
Yeah, sure. And he also has a secondary effect if you have been damaged 5 or more times when you play him.
Oh,
What's the effect?
What is that?
You can pay ice when you do. Select one of the 2 following actions. Dull one forward. Choose one dull forward, break it, which is game text for destroy a tapped creature. And choose one forward of cost 2 or less from your break zone. Play it onto the field. So it basically lets you get back a cheap forward. And put it into
so
play.
he does create more minions, which
Yeah.
is interesting, actually.
And it plays well with another card that we're going to talk about in this deck, which we referenced before, which is Titania, who is a 2-cost forward for 8,000 power, which is a lot for a 2-cost, but has the restriction that in order to play them, you can only cast. Cast means put into play from your hand. Titania, if you have a forward, backup, monster, and summon in your break zone. So that is 4 separate units, which is quite difficult to do on the early turns of the game. They also have a come into play ability. When Titania enters the field, choose up to 2 characters an opponent controls, dull them, and freeze them.
Oh, that fucked me up.
They did fuck you up.
Yeah.
I think that there's not really a strong story tie-in for this, even though the card is very complicated.
Yes.
I don't see a good connection to her actual game presence to the card. Again, I can draw a connection if I think about it. Like, it's not way out of whack, but also it doesn't resonate to me with her appearance in the game. However, we've got here the Innocence card. So Innocence does not really tie to this character itself. However, he does use a mechanic which is very popular with the devs in late game Final Fantasy XIV. He has fire and ice mechanics. There's a mechanic that gets introduced, I think, around the Shadowbringers expansion, where some enemies will have both like a big like arena-wide firepower and a big arena-wide ice power. If they cast fire, you have to stand still. If you move at all, you will get blown up and probably die. And then if they cast ice, you must be moving, otherwise you'll be frozen in place and probably die because you're stuck in place. And so this card kind of shows that dual element mechanic because the fire is a big nuke and the ice will freeze the opponent's characters.
Freeze is a Final Fantasy trading card game lingo for tap and doesn't untap.
Also in the pile I've got here, I don't think Renji actually has anything worth noting mechanically, I mean, story-wise on him.
Well, he comes into play and then he punches something.
Oh, sure, but I mean, that doesn't speak to his character.
Oh, I assumed that he was some, like, punchy old man.
He is.
Okay.
He is.
He's more than that.
He's more than that.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
However, Philia, though, this is a good card. So for those who have forgotten, Philia is the final boss of the first Shadowbringers dungeon. Not really a big character in terms of like a persona, but People who recall that fight know that this is a big slap you around type boss. And when this card goes into play, it will deal 10,000 damage to every single forward in the game, both friendly and enemy, and deal its player 1 damage. So it's going to do a big slap around of damage to everything in the game when it appears. This boss also likes to throw its weight around. Kind of a good way to represent that.
Yeah, I would have assumed that Philia would have been, given that it's the first dungeon boss, I would have assumed that it would have been less menacing, because this card read to me as something that is really dangerous.
It's a very large character, for sure, as in like physical size. And also, it's not like, oh yeah, I remember Philia in Shadowbringers, because it's not really like a big noteworthy thing.
Not at all.
But you would recognize the visual for sure if you saw it, I think.
Lots of tentacles.
Next up is Gaius. Everyone loves Gaius.
We do.
Gaius is actually a very good card for the story tie-ins, because when he enters the field, he will also grab either Nero, Livia, or Ratadin and add them to the player's hand too. So for the uninformed at the table, Gaius is the commander of the 14th Legion, and the people on the card are his posse, essentially.
Okay.
So he brings his cohorts in when he appears.
Do they all have that weird horn armor? The 14th Legion, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is called Magitech Armor, Ned.
Listen, I played Final Fantasy VI, and the Magitech armor looked completely different than this.
I think that Joe Cat should have told you about Magitech Armor.
No, sadly, no.
So, let's see. I don't think Ratadin really speaks to any story implications, in my opinion.
They've got that Magitech missile ability that I thought was fun.
So Ratadin's story beat is that he cares about his soldiers a lot. Like he essentially sacrifices himself to save his troops in the game. This card does not read to me about anything that speaks to his personality.
Yeah, no, I didn't pick up any of that from this card.
However, my favorite card, I think, in the Nemesis deck is Nail. Nail, we've talked a lot about actually on the podcast recently in the Coils series. So Nail is the White Raven, so named in honor of his victories, because he values victory at all costs. No amount of blood, resource, whatever is
too great.
Yes, is too great to spend to achieve victory. On his card, when he enters the field, you flip over the top 3 cards from your deck, and you can choose 2 forwards, as in 2 attacking cards among them, and put them into your hand immediately. Further, you can do 2 things when he appears. You can remove 1 backup from the game, as in kill a backup character, to let Nail act immediately upon entering the field. You can kill 2 backup characters to deal 8,000 damage to an opponent's forward. So he will just fuck up your troops to attack the opponent. This is a great
at any cost.
Yeah.
At any
card.
fucking cost. Yeah, totally.
Greatness at any price.
Exactly. Any other unique cards in that deck we should talk about?
I don't think so. I think we covered all the named characters other than Pipe Smoking Lady.
Yatsu.
She had nothing that spoke to me story-wise on her
Well,
cards.
Which is a bummer.
She's a backup.
It's actually a backup in the Cyan deck that Jin's going to rant about in a second.
Oh boy, okay.
The community will rant.
So stay tuned.
All right, so we're switching over to the Scions deck that features the Exarch.
Okay, so I can tell alone from the cards they've pulled out to talk about that the Cyan deck has far more characterization than the Imperials and Shadowbringers Nemesis
Big
deck.
time.
Are you suggesting that the heroes might be more well characterized and people might care more
Final
about them
Fantasy
than the
is
villains?
Well, I mean,
standout villains.
Absolutely.
Okay,
No, like
all right.
so many
Wow.
people's like favorite characters are villains, but they're not. They're not 100% villains. It's not a black and white conversation.
I'm thinking that Joe Cat didn't prepare you at all for this conversation.
Listen, Joe Cat prepared me because I'm looking at this Dragoon card and it mentions nothing about being a floor tank.
That is a big miss on the card's part.
Tremendous omission.
All right, let's start with Jin's rant. Here you go, Jin. Take it away.
All right, so in the Scions and Friends deck, of course, we're going to have Alfino and Alize, right? And so...
Who are twins and huge protagonists.
Okay.
Yes. As you know, in the Final Fantasy TCG trading card game, we have forwards, we have backups, we have summons, and whatever, the fucking monsters.
Monsters, yeah.
So Alfino and Alize, forwards, right? Nope. Nope. Does anybody want to guess which one has been relegated to backup status? Yeah, it's the fucking woman. So Alize is a backup while Alfino is the forward. And that is so upsetting to me. I don't understand why they couldn't both be forwards and still like buff each other the way that they're doing. But right now, Alfino doesn't buff Alize, but she does. So if you have her and your backup, she gives Alfino power, and she also gives him the haste buff. So it's like, I don't know if it's not so much like an indictment on Alize, but more like Alfino can't operate really at his best without her. But then she doesn't have purpose without him existing. And that's not their fucking dynamic at all. And it's really upsetting. Like, yes, they have, they are powerful together in a sense. But they are very much their own fucking person. They're totally individuals and they handle their own shit appropriately. Like, one does not need the other in order to operate. So that was one thing I noticed when I was playing it. I'm like, oh my god, Alize's the backup. I was so offended. But that's all I have to say about that.
No, I will point out that Alfino is a 2-cost forward who I would classify as this guy exists to chump block, or maybe deal some damage to the other kid.
Their clothing
He's
on
a
these
diplomat.
cards.
Yeah.
This is the A Realm Reborn. Is that no? Heaven's
No.
Ward.
This is,
I think that's Alize's makeover after Coils.
yeah, I think Stormblood.
You think so? So somewhere in the range.
Yeah.
This is either
Yeah.
Heaven's Ward or Stormblood, Alfino and Alize.
Mm-hmm.
Big miss on the card designer's part.
I know.
That person should be fired for their incompetence.
Like, who made that decision? It's so bizarre. We got plenty of backups. She totally could have been a forward.
Next up, in no particular order, we have Momodi.
Mommy Momodi.
Momodi is the proprietor of the Quicksand, which is the Ul'dah chapter of the Adventurers Guild. And she is there to get the heroes into the fight. So I think that's also very good characterization for her, the way that card is structured.
Yes, so it's a 3-cost backup that it has a 0-cost ability, which is another way of saying you can just do this whenever you want. Choose one forward you control. It gains Brave. Brave, again, is it can attack without being tapped or dulled. And you can use this ability during your main phase and only once each turn, which makes it kind of weird that it's a 0-cost until you realize that it's on a backup. So that means that she can both generate resources and give somebody Brave.
It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, so she's a hero from the back,
Yes.
as
Oh,
she
yeah.
is in the game.
Indeed.
No comments from me on the Kryl card.
Wasn't Kryl in FF4?
Or 5 or something, somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah, that's where I know Kryl from. So it was definitely a shock to me when I saw the card come out because it looks almost identical to, I think, the Beastmaster outfit in, again, FF4 or 5, the one with the job classes, which I guess is cool. It's a nice callback.
They love the callbacks.
They-
I got
No notes?
I got nothing on
Okay,
Kryl.
yep.
Yeah.
I actually do have a note, and that is, why is this in this deck? And what I mean by this is 2 decks that were specifically built to be played against each other. And Kryl has an ability, she's a 2-cost backup, where you can spend a Earth and 1 other resource and dull her. Choose one forward you control. During your turn, it cannot be returned to its owner's hand by your opponent's summons or abilities. I believe that there are no summons or abilities in the bad guys deck that will do that effect. So that seems like a weird miss.
Also, same thing for Emmett's 4-cost play an ice backup. There's nothing that you want to play with that card.
Emmett, I will say for Emmett, there is nothing that you want to play that costs 4. There are things that you would want to play that cost 2.
Yes.
And that, one of the things when you're designing these dual decks is you want to give people off ramps onto if you want to spend more money, this is what you can do. And you'll look at who was it that we were just talking about the name?
Alfino?
No, not Alfino. The guy that gets the 4-cost backup.
Emmett.
Emmett. Thank you. Where you might see that ability and you'll go, this deck has no 4-cost backups. Let's go look for some 4-cost backups. Oh, wow, I can make my deck better now, maybe.
All right. Yep. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, you want that toe. But Kryl, this is a defensive ability that defends against something that your opponent doesn't see.
Well, that checks out because
Yeah.
the Gaius card is missing both Livia and Nero.
Yes.
There is only a Ratadin in this deck, so to make Gaius complete, you want to get those other
No,
Imperials.
exactly. You want those little hooks there where you're like, oh, he's calling out cards that I don't have. I could just go buy those cards.
Diabolical.
Yeah.
Next up in the Levier family set, there's Louis Soir. I'm actually fairly disappointed in the Louis Soir card.
It's like wah-wah.
If they were going to include him in the game, make him like count. This is Alphino and Alice's grandfather.
He's also a backup.
He is the hero of the rebooted Final Fantasy XIV 1.0.
He saved the world. You know, like
yeah,
no
pretty
big deal.
much. And he's a 3-cost backup that summons Alphino or Alice to the field. It's like of all.
He's more than a grandchild summoner. Like this is very weird.
Yes.
Louis Soir. I mean, like he should have all of those honorifics that we give to King Mugglemog. Peace be his name or whatever the fuck they
Glory
say.
be his name.
Glory be his name.
His judgment you will dread.
Yes. All of these things. We should apply that to Louis Soir. He's
so
reproach.
another big miss. The Levier family really needs some patching, it seems like. Even like ignoring our feelings, if you want to grab the Final Fantasy XIV crowd, you should make those cards more appealing because people will want to play with them because they like those characters. So making them such kind of like meh type cards.
I'm still like, oh shit, Louis Soir. You are done, man. The guy that destroyed Bahamut. Yeah, like I said that in the weirdest way.
Bahamut.
Yeah, I will say that again. Coming into this, I had no idea that Louis Soir mattered. He seemed.
Yep.
He seemed.
They didn't hook Ned either.
Very
so
Nope.
You might have some comments on Dark Knight.
I did have some comments on Dark Knight. So Dark Knight is a 3-cost forward with 9,000 power, which is I'd call above rate, meaning that it's more power than you would expect for the resources. But it has the text: if Dark Knight receives damage, the damage increases by 4,000 instead, which means that it is very strong on attack but weak on defense, where it will tend to die much more than you would expect. It did. What I think that's kind of interesting, because my understanding is that Dark Knight is a tank class, and this is the opposite of a tank card. This feels more like a melee damage dealer card.
The Dark Knight, though, is the squishiest of the tanks.
What I thought of when I saw that ability was they have an ability called Living Dead, which is their, quote, invulnerability ability. The Dark Knights is the roughest of all the tanks because it makes them... I haven't played Dark Knight since they patched it, so maybe I'm a bit out of date here. But the version I played Dark Knight under, if you pop that ability, you lose all your health but cannot be killed. However, if you're not healed back to full before the buff expires, you will die. So it is kind of like a timer on your life unless the healers top you off again.
That seems like I can see how that kind of rhymes. It doesn't capture the effect perfectly, but I could see that. Yeah.
I mean, that seems more like a, as we call them in the business, a melee DPS ability.
Yes.
Like for, maybe for like Rogue or something would have that high damage, low defense type ability.
Where they're squishier.
Or Dragoon.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, odd choice, but it kind of makes sense if you unfocus your eyes a little bit.
That's true, I think, of a lot of card game designs, is that you have to... It's hard to capture the full depth of any kind of other game with a card game. You have to simplify everything a lot. And so if you can get things to even rhyme a little bit, it's nice.
Sure. Yeah, I can't imagine how difficult that must be.
So next up on my short list is Raubon. The Raubon card, when you play it, he is a forward, technically speaking, as in like a frontline character. But when you play the card, both Raubon and the opponent's character of the player's choice take 9,000 damage. Raubon has 8,000 power, which means he will kill himself when he enters the field. This does not really match his character. He is a general who is well respected and so on, but I wouldn't associate him with kind of like a suicide attack type style.
Though he is a celebrated gladiator, so there's, I guess, a little bit of that thematically going on.
I mean, frankly, if I saw that card, I would want to put it on, God, I can't say it, on one of the...
You can't say it because the name is a spoiler.
If I were to design this card, I would put this ability on, because this character destroys themselves and their target in a last moment blaze of glory. That is what this card does. Raubon is still alive and kicking as of where we are in the podcast.
Right.
Not the most thematic, even though it is a very evocative ability.
Yeah. I will say from a design perspective, it also makes the little gear wheels in your head turn, where he doesn't say that he kills himself. It says that he deals himself 9,000 damage. Yeah. And so you're like, can I make him survive?
Correct. I mean, because I had cards that would allow the, some other forwards would give him like a 2,000
right, and that will make him survive.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So, and you said when I used it, it was like a clutch thing because I had to get rid of your shit.
I had my Innocence engine out.
Oh,
so
boy.
I had
That's so brutal.
To do the Fire and Ice Innocence, you must have one Innocence in your discard pile. So I had my second Innocence out, and I was ready to start blasting Jin's characters with like 3 fireballs every round. But then Jin drops Raban on Innocence and takes it off the field. Like 1 turn before the engine was running.
Ugh, shit sucks.
The bad guys deck. The non-heroes deck. Is that better?
The non-scions.
Non-scions deck. It has a lot less like upfront power, but the Innocence engine, if you can get it running, is just so brutal that
it's not fair.
It's really not fun to experience.
It's true.
All right, next up in our backup Scion category, there's Urian J. So Urian J is...
He has quite the posture on this card.
He does not look like himself. He looks like some sort of like hot anime man who's summoning
he is, but
books or cards or whatever.
Yeah, no, his body language here is bizarre.
Because he is like a ye olde nerd ass scholar in the game.
Oh no, I did not pick that up.
He looks hot in this card.
Yeah, no, he it looked like he was like reaching out to like do a lift or climb something. I don't know.
He looks like buff, like he's gonna tear your jugular out.
Yeah,
and that's not his vibe at all.
Yeah.
So the mechanical ability, he summons other cards. Sure, that kind of works for Urian J. Not a big win there, but the art though is what I was looking at.
It's upsetting.
Yeah.
Like so
okay, so for the record, before we get added, Urian J hot, sure, but not. it's the look that kind of.
He's a twink and not an otter.
Oh my god.
I feel like that's accurate. Yeah. I will say one more card note about Urian J. His go find somebody else ability is an EX burst, which I had a game against Levi that went very much down to the wire, and flipping Urian J for the EX burst helped bail me out.
Nice.
In the 11th hour.
Nice. He does that.
He does
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are 2 Thancred cards in this deck.
This is Thancred.
Thank you.
Is it the one where he looks prettier or the one where he looks less pretty?
Well,
So there's an artist's rendition of Thancred, and then there's like he's pulled out like from the game.
What it is though, there's one A Realm Reborn Thancred and one Shadowbringers Thancred card. Mm-hmm. So the hot one is the Shadowbringers Thancred. I've got shit to say about Thancred, which I cannot say yet on the podcast because we're not far enough along. So I'll have to hold my tongue here too. But what's interesting is that the Thancred cards are very kind of team oriented, which is not what I think of when I think of Thancred. No. He is like, I will do it myself, come hell or high water. I don't want to bring people down by being weak.
Right. So there's, he's a trauma-informed Scion.
The A Realm Reborn Thancred powers up with other Scions around.
Yeah, that does not feel at all like the Raphael of your Scion group.
Yeah. I guess in A Realm Reborn, I mean, the Scions do rally around him because he becomes kind of a central element.
For the Shadowbringers card, he powers up when Scions join.
That feels more like the I'm too cool for school.
Yes, agree.
Yeah.
So this one, the Shadowbringers version, does a better job, in my opinion, of nailing the characterization than the A Realm Reborn does.
I will also note that it seems weird that they both cost 4. I mean, they both have 8,000 power, but the Shadowbringers Thancred with the cool gun sword is, in my opinion, strictly better than the other Thancred by a non-trivial amount.
Agree. Yep. Okay, moving on through the Scions roster to Y'shtola. This is a very good card. I don't know how much I agree with how they made her character appear in the card game, though. So when she enters the field, she chooses 1 forward in the character's discard pile. If you have Scions on the field that are equal to or more than that discarded Scion's value, that Scion comes back onto the field. This feels like it should be like a Minfilia or something, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she has plenty of power standing alone, really, and her abilities to, research and put, like, stratagems together. But she's not, like, hanging out.
So the stratagems part, I think, is interesting because This mechanically, this is a card that lets you treat your break zone as a toolbox, right? Where if you're missing any particular card, and because so many of the cards in this deck are Scions of the Seventh Dawn, your ability to go get the precise unit that you need is large, which I think of as being like a planning, cunning kind of a thing.
Yes.
Just mechanically to walk through, because we read the text, but basically she gets to reanimate from your break zone any Scion as long as that Scion has cost equal to or less than the number of other Scions that you have. So Y'shtola has, in a couple of games against Levi, and I think in Levi's a couple of games against me, has bailed me out a lot and Levi out a lot.
Yeah, very good card.
Very good card.
Just odd choice of character, in my opinion, for that. But now we have Minfilia. I think the Minfilia card here does do her character justice. However, the card art is the weird upskirt bondage Minfilia art, which is extremely questionable to use as her card in this deck.
This is some hentai shit.
I don't know why this was the choice. Actually, I probably do know why this was the choice. This is not how she appears in the game. It is
provocative.
Yes, it is provocative indeed.
Are you implying that card game players are lonely, sweaty nerds?
I will not confirm nor deny that statement. Anyway, the art choice aside for her card, the Minfilia card will choose up to 2 characters in the player's discard pile and add them to that player's hand. And then if you spend Earth Element and tap Minfilia, you can break her and then break the opponent's light or dark character. So she essentially will sacrifice herself in the card form to take out a light or dark character, which seem to be powerful characters.
Yes. So the deck building rules say that you can only include 1 light or dark card, and you may not include both a light and a dark card. That being, like, your dark card is generally really significant.
Speaking to the lost ability on the card, I don't know if the break Minfilia to break a light or dark card is the character I would put that on necessarily. I can think of others that might. Again, that's kind of like the last stand type archetype. There are others I would pick for that.
Minfilia has a problem in that, at least from my point of view, she is a 6-cost backup. And if going back to the game rules, backups don't do anything for you on the turn that they come into a play. They can't attack. They can't block. There are purely resource generators. And Minfilia is effectively drawing you 2 cards out of your discard pile when you play her. So it's 2 cards of your choice, which is generally pretty good. But at 6 cost, you're pitching 3 cards to play her. And so you're not going up resources. It's a card selection and not a raw card advantage tool. Yeah. And on a backup, that seems not necessarily the best.
My opinion is that in this deck, she's meant to be played only through the card I have in my hand here, which is the Oracle. This is another Shadowbringers card, the Oracle. When this card is broken, you can play any card you want to with the Scion tag from your discard pile. You can play that 6-cost Minfilia just like you can play like a 4-cost Thancred from your discard pile at that point in time. So this is how I would bring out Minfilia if I were in the game at this moment.
Yeah, trying to play optimally. And that makes a lot of sense. That card is very, very good.
Yeah, so the Oracle card, this is a light card that costs 3 only. It gives any Scion plus 2,000 power. Plus, again, when this card is broken, then you can play a card from your break zone for free.
So this, when it gives another Scion 2,000 power, that's every turn you get to pick one of your Scions and they get plus 2,000 power. Or not, it's just universally. All Scions that you control get plus 2,000 power. So that will make Grauban survive. To go back into game stories, is I remember in one particular game I was playing against Levi, I did a desperation attack with the Oracle and I needed Levi to block and he obliged by blocking. And it was beautiful because I was able to do a whole bunch of really goofy chains out of the discard pile, out of the break zone to reestablish my board when things had been really bad.
Yeah, that card is a problem because it is very weak in terms of its raw power.
Yes.
But you want it to be actually taken off the board most of the time. When Jen and I were playing recently, I tried to keep the Oracle on lockdown with the ice powers because I did not want that as like a block option for Jin.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want it to be able to block. because of the way that the damage model works in the game, even though at 5,000 power, this character is one of the weaker characters, it still does a point of damage if it connects. It doesn't matter how powerful the character is that connects. Connecting with a 5,000 power and connecting with a 9,000 power character are both equally as good. Having that threat of being able to attack with them and either get a point of damage through or resurrect something is hugely significant.
That said, though, I think as far as the card mechanics go, I don't feel the Oracle's personality on that card.
No, and I think I guess thematically it kind of makes sense, but you really don't get an idea of how she is in the game. Yeah, I don't know.
Nice, but still very powerful card.
Yes,
for sure. This one I grabbed by mistake. I have no comments on that one.
You don't have any comments on Black Mage?
Not that one. I will say though that the Black Mage in the Scions deck sucks. Because it's like you have to pay 6 costs, 3 lightning, 3 whatever, to deal like 5,000 damage. I don't know.
Well, there's 2 Black Mages. There's one that's the little people. What are they called?
The Lalafell.
Lalafell, thank you. There's the Lalafell Black Mage, and then there's the tall, spooky-looking Black Mage that's not a cat person, so I don't know what species they are. But the Lalafell Black Mage has an ability that is way over costed. And then the other Black Mage, the non-Lalafell Black Mage, is just a small amount of direct weaken, where when it enters the battlefield, choose one forward an opponent controls. It loses 4,000 power until the end of turn.
Yeah. That is just a regular here, or the human equivalent in that world. The last card for me is the Exarch. So this is a very powerful card that causes problems for your opponent.
Yes.
Because every attack phase, you can choose to give any of your forwards a plus 2,000 power bonus, which means that any of your forwards that you have can potentially go from 0 to hero, because that can easily tip them over the threshold from being negligible to being able to destroy the attacking character's forwards.
Yeah. Yeah, like moving Urian Jer from 5,000 to 7,000 power turns them from being a completely negligible attacker that can be basically blocked by anything into a moderately fine or character is huge. Or most notably on Thancred, the cool Gunsword Thancred has the ability to give himself haste and brave. And so because he can give himself brave with that ability and 2,000 power, you're having like a 12,000 power brave. That means doesn't dull to attack, doesn't tap to attack Thancred. That's slamming into your opponent's face every turn, which is a bad scene.
Well, even also with Alphino, he has an ability which will dull an opponent's character if they're less than Alphino's power.
Yeah.
So you will dull 2,000 power more worth of characters when Alphino attacks with the Exarch's power up.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that speaks a lot to the Scions of the Seventh Dawn deck, is that it feels much more integrated, where the cards feel like they play better together.
Yeah.
And it has a more cohesive game plan of like trying to get out your units that all buff each other, and then you have big duders that you get to slam in with.
And then, like I mentioned, the Exarch has the power-up ability, which if the player has 5 or more damage, then when the Exarch attacks, it can automatically break one forward of equal to or less than the Exarch's power, which is very powerful because you will take one forward off the board, period. I think overall, the Exarch's ability, fine. First character, like, supports, yes, sure, leader, yes, can make anyone powerful. I'd call it like maybe a B or C plus in terms of characterization. It doesn't feel unique to the Exarch, but it does resonate with that character's kind of role.
In addition to having powerful game text abilities, is also just reasonably costed, which is weird to me, where they're 3 cost for 7,000 power, and I'm just sort of flipping through the deck. Thancred is 4 cost for 8,000 power. Admittedly, the 3-4 breakpoint is weird, where 3 and 4 both on the first turn are 2 pitch, but with a backup, it's only 1 pitch for a 3 versus 2 pitch for a 4. So you don't like the sort of power step between 3 and 4 you'd imagine would be smaller than the power step between like 2 and 3. But the Crystal Exarch seems very, very aggressively costed.
That is a very good card.
Yeah. and I don't feel like the non-Scions deck quite has the same level of power in their individual cards.
Agree. But that one's more, I think, about kind of the nukes, the ability damage versus like attacker damage.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all my cards of note. Anything else you want to talk about the Final Fantasy trading card game starter deck?
The Final Fantasy trading card game starter deck. This one is out of print, unfortunately.
Oh, wow. Did not know that.
Yeah, so that's why I asked the specific question about what is the MSRP versus... But my understanding from being an extremely tangential follower of the Final Fantasy trading card game is that they are having another battle box coming out soon that I think is Final Fantasy 14 related. There's an expansion of Final Fantasy 14 coming out soon, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when I was poking around briefly, when I was like, hey, this seems fun. Do I want to play around with 14? Oh, wow, that costs so much. Never mind.
Yeah.
I did see there was some other like booster set coming out, which combined 14 and 7. Maybe it's like the 7 remake. I don't know.
Yeah, could
anyway,
be. Yeah.
You can't buy boosters for one game. You have to muddy the waters.
That said, there are incentives for you to build decks that are themed around a single game. So like, for example, the Scions deck really does key off of the Scions. And so throwing other games worth of characters in it would probably not work well. On the other hand, the non-Scions deck feels a lot more just like a pile of cards that kind of works together. And you can certainly just build piles of cards that are good and aren't less themed around a single game or a single archetype.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Ned, for joining us.
Happy to.
Invaluable input.
Yeah.
Really?
That was really enlightening.
It really was. You've got so much knowledge that we don't have about how these games work in general.
I'm all rotted up with horrible knowledge about card games that nobody cares about.
Well, if you want more card game knowledge that Star Wars fans care about.
And other people too. It's a good card game just for even non-Star Wars fans.
Do you want to boost your podcast again, Ned?
Absolutely. TheForceUnlimited.com. That is TheForceUnlimited.com. And we're video enabled, so you get to see me. You don't have to just listen to these jokers. Yeah, we're living in the 21st century.
What are we living in?
I don't know. The 7th astral era.
Nice.
I will
No
also
TV, for
put a link in the show notes to theforceunlimited.com.
Thank you. Yes, that is theforceunlimited.com. Smash the like button, hit the bell, subscribe to these guys' podcasts.
All the fun things.
Yeah. Got to shill somehow. So just as a question, and this might be entirely irrelevant, are you planning on making this a recurring feature? Because I feel like the number of Final Fantasy 14 card games is relatively small. Are you going to branch out into like Triple Triad or something?
All I'm saying is that this is episode 1 of Card Sharks. If there are more card-related topics that are also tied to Final Fantasy 14, there may be an episode 2.
We'll cross that bridge shuffle when we get to it.
Oh,
nice.
Nice.
Yeah. So that will do it for today's episode. I can't. It's
Card Sharks.
I can't say the same shit as I do on the other show. But yeah, thanks for joining us for Card Sharks, where we talk about cards.
Until next time, work card, play card.
There it is.
Adios.